New England is one of the most historic and culturally rich regions in America. A lot of stuff has originated here. Chocolate chip cookies, stamps, and the sport of basketball, just to name a few.
We also have things here that are quintessentially New England. Things like clam chowder, Maine lobsters, Vermont maple syrup, Boston baked beans, and Boston cream pie. And stuff that isn't food, too.
Join us as we discover other unexpected New England originals in food and beverage, entertainment, sports, community engagement, and more.
I'm Greg Moon.
I'm Megan Wilson.
And this is New England Originals.
In New England, there are few things that pair better together than sports and a cold beer. Dubbed Title Town, Boston has had more than its fair share of victories, dominating championships in hockey, baseball, basketball, and of course, football.
We are thrilled to welcome three-time Super Bowl champion, member of the New England Patriots Hall of Fame, and all-around great guy Matt Light to the New England Originals podcast. Not only was he a tremendous player in the NFL, but he also co-founded the Light Foundation with his wife Susie in 2001 to help young people develop the skills, values, and mindset they need to create a meaningful and productive future.
Thanks for coming on, Matt.
Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. We got some lovely coasters, by the way. I just want to bring that up.
They are nice.
Yeah.
Try you slam that beer down, no one's even going to know.
It's just a way for me to draw attention to this beautiful elixir that we're all enjoying.
We love a beer. Mm-hmm. So I had a question for you. When you were in the NFL draft, did you have any expectations of what would happen or any teams you were hoping to land on?
Oh, wow. This is right in my wheelhouse because if you have expectations, it's only because that you know something about the game, you know the teams that you like to watch or the team you grew up with, the one that was in your backyard that your uncle loved, right? I didn't have any of that. So I grew up in a family that never watched a lick of football. And so my father, if I back up all the way, my father grew up with severe polio. So he didn't have that sports career, right? And then we also grew up in a family that was all about the outdoors. And I grew up in Ohio, West Central Ohio, tillable, a lot of farm ground, middle of nowhere kind of place. But I played football because, I think honestly it was my mom. She was like, look, I can't have you eating everything and destroying my home all day, so go play sports, right? And so I played football from the time I can possibly remember. And by the time I got to high school, I had people telling me, hey, you can go, to college and, have this career. And I thought, well, good, because my dad was just telling me, but I have to pay for college. And I had no idea you could get a scholarship. So by the time I was eligible for the draft, I had agents coming at me. I don't know anything about this. I had no clue what it was about. I got drafted by the New England Patriots and thought I was going to another country. I thought they must have a team in Canada. And I like to think that I'm somewhat intelligent. I did get a degree, but, certain things in the football realm I was completely oblivious to. And in some ways, I think it actually helped me.
I was thinking this exact same thought because I've been at this company almost 30 years. And some of my best years were when I first started. I was green as hell, and I didn't know what I was doing. And it was like, because I didn't know I could fail, I had no fear of it.
You weren't afraid of it.
So I just went out and did it. And I didn't even know, I'm in sales, so, how many no's do you get in a day? I didn't know. I got my first no. I was like, well, the next count's not going to say no. I thought, you get at least a batting average from baseball. No, it's a lot lower than that. But you don't know that, so you just go out with all the confidence in the world.
Well, my offensive line coach, Dante Scarnecchia, used to tell me, Light, you don't know if the ball's pumped or stuffed. You have no idea what you're doing, do you? And I'm like, no, I actually don't, coach. Not even a little bit. I have no idea. But it was great. Look, and what better place to come to than, the transition that we saw from 2001 to today, right? With a coaching staff like Belichick and all the, great coaches that, I was fortunate to have over my career, ownership, the excitement of a new stadium the next season, right? It was a wild experience. It was a heck of a ride.
You're Ohio, Purdue, Boilermakers.
Boiler up, baby.
What was what was it like? What was New England like for you when you first came to New England?
Yeah, man, it was wild. So I met my wife in college. I tricked her early and often, and it worked. And so, here we are, two Midwesterners, never been to New England. I had no idea that it was a region, right? Like I knew of Rhode Island and Connecticut and Massachusetts, blah, blah, blah. I get here and it's like, oh boy, they're a lot faster. You know, I mean, in Midwest, we kind of watch the grass grow. We're pretty content. You know, we're not in a hurry. And then you come here and it's like, I'm doing 96 getting passed by like a grandmother in a Chevelle. Like, what is happening right now? And it was nuts. And my wife was the same way. And we're trying to figure it out. And we're in Foxborough. We're like in the in-between land, you know, and it's like, holy smokes. But I will say that, you know, even with the questions I would get from buddies back home, they'd be like, hey, man, what's it like out there with all those New England people? You know, they crazy? You know, what's that whole Boston thing like? And
They're busy. They're fast.
Yeah, crazy. But I love history. You know, you come out here, you look at these stone fences, and all these people in New England think they're stone walls. They're not. They're fences, right? But, you know, you look at the history of everything. You look at, you know, just the many firsts that occurred right here, right? And then it's like anywhere else, right? Anywhere you go on earth, you're going to have the people that you can't stand. You're going to find those right out at the gate. That's day one. And then if you give it enough time, I think the universal truth is you're always going to find people that you can gravitate towards no matter what area of the world you're calling home. And that's what we've been able to find. And so, you know, we come in 2001, you know, it's 2023 now. And, you know, we look at this as home, and our kids, you know, have been born and raised here. Go to the public school system in Foxborough. You know, this has been a great ride.
Do they have wicked Pissa accents now?
You know, they don't. We get them into the Midwest enough in the summer to, you know, kind of keep them
knock
baseline.
that out of them.
Yeah.
So I do have to admit to you, I'm a lifelong Bills fan, which means you made my life hell for a number of years.
Yeah.
And it means I don't know what it's like to win a Super Bowl. So I have to ask about that. Like, what does that feel like to fucking win that championship?
Wow, crazy. I know this much. In 2001, it was surreal. It was wild. It was like over the top, complicated. You know, it was unbelievable to, you know, be a player, and especially again for someone who didn't, you know, I didn't come in with great expectations, right? Like I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna go to this division and I'm gonna be this kind of a player, and I want to, you know, set these milestones, and I want to be just like, you know, whoever, right? That wasn't me, and so when we got to that point where we actually, you know, realized, you know, the overall work and effort and blood, sweat, and tears, so to speak, and that it paid off in the ultimate way. You know, I remember looking around, and I had my wife. She was pregnant with our first kid, who's now a junior at Purdue. I got my parents, who really never, ever left home, or, you know, I mean, look, our vacations were rendezvous, pre-1800 encampments, man. Like we didn't do much outside of our own little existence. And here they are, you know, the biggest stage in football, you know, being able to celebrate it as a group. I mean, that was an unbelievable experience. And then to think, you know, as you fast forward my career, that I would be able to, you know, enjoy 5 moments like that, you know, playing so many incredible games. And honestly, for me, when I think of New England and I think of, you know, what this region's done for me, it's all the people that I got to hear their stories, right? Like, you know, I used to be at old Foxborough Stadium, man. It was those old bleachers there was all aluminum, no backs to the seats, rats running across our feet. You couldn't take a leak for a week. I mean, like, and now they're like in like this like unbelievable 4 seasons of a stadium. You know, we got a practice facility right there. We're not at the mental hospital down the road. I mean, it's cool to, you know, to be a part of, you know, this tradition of not just winning, but, you know, winning the right way. I look, you know, for all the controversy and scandal and all this junk that, you know, gets lumped into the conversation if you're a Bills fan or a whatever, right? The reality is, I think we did it with some of the best to ever do it, right? You know,
that makes me think of something. Wasn't there was that first Super Bowl they kind of announce the players of the other team, and then the Patriots take the field, and it's just like you all go out as a team.
Oh, they had no idea who we were, actually.
And like it was all individual stars, and the New England Patriots, and
right.
You all ran out at once, right?
Yeah. That honestly,
was that the first time that had ever happened?
Yeah, I think it was actually, and I think it was really.
That's such a cool.
Yeah, it was, I think people, you know, that remember that team, big time fans, like, you know, it meant something to them. for the same reason it meant something to us, like we never thought of ourselves as individuals. We were always a team. And look, that's a credit to the coaching staff, Bill, his system, and the whole nine. But at the end of the day, I think it really tells you a better story about the guys that were there. We weren't egomaniacs. We weren't driven for our own, purposes. And, it's not like today. I mean, these kids today, it's all about their brand, right? Like, what can I get on my social media feeds? How can I stand out above and beyond, the guys that I'm sharing a locker room with? It almost goes against everything that is, being a team, right?
Exactly.
And so we were. I think we were probably the first to ever do it that way.
That's cool.
It
That's really
cool. Made an impact on me when I saw it. I
Yeah,
was like,
you remember that.
whoa,
Yeah.
This is a force to be reckoned with. And of course, watching that whole season, we knew there was something special going on.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting to hear that you didn't really watch football, growing up. So when you got to the league, did it take a while for you to like feel rivalries, or like how did you kind of like get to that point where like, oh yeah, I hate playing, the Giants or whoever it is?
You know what? I never got there. I got there on individual stuff. Like when I was drafted, and again, this is the first time I ever saw a draft, and I really didn't see much of it. I was at the Neon Cactus. Shout out to the Boilermaker Nation out there that understands where that's at. It was the best watering hole out there. I was in the piano bar, and I was 40 beers deep into the first round. And, I get a call, and it's Scott Pioli, head of player personnel, right? And he's like, hey, we're thinking about drafting you. And, Breeze had just gone. He was the first pick of the second round. He was my quarterback.
You played with him.
Yeah, look, you don't have to be a very good left tackle when you're two quarterbacks from high school, Drew Brees and Tom Brady. I mean, let's be honest. Seriously, let's just call it what it is. And so, I get this call. I had no idea what to expect. I've never watched a draft in my life. And so this guy from New England calls me. Cool. I hang up with him. A little while later, a guy from the Jets calls me. I don't know anything about a rivalry or that the coach came from there and went to New England and la-di-da. And as I'm talking to this guy from the Jets, I get another call from the same number, and it's Scott Pioli again, and he's like, hey, who are you talking to? And I'm like, like I didn't know about Raymond Reddington or the Blacklist or any of this other stuff, but I'm like, somebody watching me?
Like, how do you know I'm talking to
somebody?
somebody?
Yeah, what is happening? I know now. But anyway, so he says, hang up with them. We're getting ready to, draft you. So they had traded up to get the 48th pick. I think the Jets had the 49th. So I come into it in a rivalry situation without even knowing it, right?
Damn.
They're already shooting, shots at each other over a guy like me who doesn't have skin in the game, doesn't understand it. I never got into the rivalry. There were teams that, I disliked more than others, right? Hated Pittsburgh. I mean, I hated them for the reasons that I love the game. They're dirty. They always had something.
Physical.
Yeah, physical. They're in your face. Like, I love that. I would just say that for me, especially in my position, my rivalry was whoever was lining up against me. I mean, look, I'm a fat, slow, white guy, who's going, and I'm going backwards as you have like really athletic, unbelievably like sophisticated like athletes running at me, and I'm at a disadvantage every step of the way.
What do you make of the people saying that Bill Belichick tries to get like high IQ players, like
he failed.
Smart,
he failed at least once.
Smart
failed once horribly
versus physical players. Like there is a lot. It's a college game. I mean, it's a smart game. There's a lot of plays. There's a lot of things to know, and I feel like he might coach.
Yeah. Look, you can coach a lot of people a lot of different ways, but what you can't coach is critical thinking, right? Like you can develop a lot, right? You can develop certain habits. You can develop, the kind of characteristics that you want to see out of certain things, this, that, and the other. But you really just can't coach someone's ability to critically think.
Right.
And it's a wide field when I say that. I mean, you can apply that in a lot of different ways. But I think for Bill, given the option between somebody that's able to adapt and pivot, as they like, the big hot word now in business is pivoting, right? I mean, it's critically thinking, right? It's what our special operators do. It's what makes a Delta Force member, different from a Navy SEAL, different from a Green Beret. These are people that it's life and death. And so Bill looks at things that way and says, look, I want the guy who knows how to, just get the job done. May not have the best tools. He may not be the first guy there, but consistently in the long run, he's going to win.
And I feel like this current year with the trades he's made, he's getting kind of lambasted in the
What trades?
sports.
He's barely doing anything.
Well, he's getting a little.
Come on, Bill. Come on, Bill.
And I'm
Not
thinking,
Juju,
I'm
I'll
thinking
give
in the
you
back of my mind is like he knows something about these guys that we don't know, and I bet
Oh,
it's what's in between the ears.
There's always an evil
Yeah.
plan there. I know that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably gonna hurt a little bit. No, by the way, you guys are riding the high. I mean, you got all the leverage right now. You got Josh Allen, who's my son's favorite player.
Let's
Right?
go.
I mean,
Let's
and
go.
by the
He's
way,
amazing.
he is amazing.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that kid.
Yeah.
I wish him the best. And, by the way, I do have to say that I loved going to play in Buffalo. Loved it. Loved everything about it. It's like medieval a little bit. It's like a little bit of a
Bill's
it's like,
Mafia.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
It's like the Midwest version of like the Oakland Raiders.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you go there, they're peeing on your van, on your bus as you're leaving. They're throwing things
Mm-hmm.
out of like a flaming trash barrel. Like you gotta love that. Like that's good stuff.
Those are my people.
Sign
Yeah.
me up.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Oh yeah.
Good times.
That's so funny. So, when you what was your what got you hyped up to go into games? Like, were you always just kind of even keel, or did you have to like get yourself like riled up and ready to go?
I like how you threw an even keel. Stay balanced. You know what? For me, so my wife would laugh when you asked that question. I didn't talk to my own family on game day. Like so as a sidebar to this, I love to laugh. I love to pull practical jokes. I love everything about like just having a good time. I like meeting weird people. I love life. You know, I love Lamp. I love Lamp. Right? All right. Brick killed a man. But anyway, so I would say this, right? When I played though, and I love practice and I love messing with our coaches and teammates and stuff. But when I practiced and when I was going into a game day, the switch got flipped, right? And there's people that can do that.
Focus.
I had to do that because I had to stop being an idiot, like trying to come up with something funny. So I had to put myself in a different situation. And I wouldn't do that in practice. I wouldn't do that until I got onto the field. But game day, it would start the minute I woke up. Like I'm not talking to my wife. I'm not talking to my parents. I don't care who came in. Like they're getting nothing. And I hated the night games. Night games because you're sitting around forever, which means I have to be angry
Patience, yeah.
all day. So miserable. But that was just my way of doing it. So, I would. I remember in college it was always some Eminem song where he's really angry. Like something like stupid like that. And then as I got older, I literally was the guy. I didn't need any of that anymore. I kind of had enough life experiences to draw from. I would just sit there. I'd fall asleep like in between like the warm up and the start of the game. Every game, I was dead asleep.
What?
Yeah, I slept through most of my football career. Actually, to be honest with you, mainly in meetings, which again didn't go over real well with Bill. But what are you gonna do? Payroll deduct.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, they find.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'd fall asleep standing up eating a candy bar during meetings.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not
jealous.
sleeping soundly enough at night.
I know I did a
You have
sleep
any
study.
apnea or anything?
I did a sleep study, the thing where they hook up a lot of electrodes to like every part of your body, your eyelids, your nostrils,
Sure.
your ears, right, everything. And I remember even the technician that's not supposed to say anything was like, damn. Like literally was like appalled by what I did.
Oh my God.
But since the team was the one that paid for
in your
it.
sleep.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Like he said, it was just nuts. But it never went any further than that.
They're just like, oh, that was nuts. Sorry, good luck.
You're supposed to follow up at some point and do something, but I don't know.
It's in your spam email somewhere. I don't know. But to your point about night games, that was one of the best parts about the Bills not being good is give me a 1:00 game every week. Like now that we're good and I have these night games, it's miserable. Give me a 1:00 every week.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, they don't think about what that does to the civilian community.
I mean, seriously, we're
let
part of the
alone
team too,
players.
right? You know?
Exactly. I know.
We're in it
Those night
together.
games are brutal. They
Yeah.
really are. For players, because look, we're creatures of habit. A Monday's a Monday, a Tuesday's a Tuesday. But when you have a night game, or you have, God forbid, a Monday or a Thursday, forget that. Now they're talking Saturday games and Friday games.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, what? Our pets' heads are falling off. We gotta get out of here. You know what I'm saying? This is crazy.
This is kind of a left field question, but you were talking about Eminem. I'm a musician. Your parents were musicians, right?
Oh, yeah, big time. My dad, Woody Herman, Cy Zentner, big band, lead bass player. My mom taught music for 35 years. They
Wow.
met in a band. My mom put an ad in for a bassist. Yeah, man.
So-
Full recording studio in the basement. Get it on.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I have a recording studio in my basement. But my question was, when you watch on TV, you don't hear the songs they play in the stadiums. And when you go to a Pats game, you hear Guns N' Roses, you hear Rage. When Rage Against the Machine comes on, for me, that's a...
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And I can't believe they're playing it because it's kind of like... And other heavy metal stuff that they'll do, the AC/DC. But when you go to other stadiums, is there a different sound track?
Listen, that's a great question. There is like a league soundtrack. It's like,
oh really?
Oh yeah, it's like crazy. It's Ozzy. It's there's certain
that White Stripes song. That's always.
It is.
Always.
There's like a league sound. There's definitely a component of league, and then team. Right. So Tommy had his song. It was like some very fluffy, nice, warm and fuzzy song that I can't remember what it was, but you guys maybe know. I don't know. It played before like our second offensive series of every game. I don't know what it was. It wasn't cool.
Pat goes to more games.
It wasn't cool.
It wasn't cool. I know that much. And no offense, Tommy.
Right.
I mean, he's a sensitive guy. He's from California. He's
when
got
you
sisters.
go to baseball, the guys get their
walk-up
songs, and
Yep.
a lot of times because all the Dominicans and stuff, they're like Latin or they're in Spanish. You're like, I don't know
Crazy
this song at all.
pinatas everywhere.
You're in trouble when you hear that song though. When you're at a baseball
Maybe
game,
not.
you're like, oh, we're about to get cranked. Back up.
Yeah.
If they asked me like what song do I want to come out to, I'd have to say my boy Martin Sexton. You a Marty Sexton
Oh
guy?
yeah.
I love Marty Sexton. The best.
He gets quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, Marty has like he's like hot yoga and relaxation, like Zen all in one. Like the voice of an angel. He really is. It's amazing.
So I know you mentioned Tom a second ago. So I watched some interviews of you to kind of get ready for this, and I did hear you talk about Tom being a good beer chugger, which surprised me. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, and just what other guys on the team could throw him back.
Yeah, who would have thought a guy that doesn't have nightshades in his diet and can't get a sunburn because he's so hydrated could possibly, which is weird. I know it's crazy. Seriously.
That's wild. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, put him in a desert for a week, nothing's gonna happen.
Come on.
Seriously, he'll come out looking as pasty as he
He's
is today.
superhuman.
He's got Keith Richard genes, I think.
Yeah, you can't kill him.
No,
Can't kill him. Yeah, and listen, I mean, I know he has a hatred of strawberries and nightshades, which is in the family of like tomatoes and
Right,
whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't eat those.
It can
You'll be
upset your
fine.
tummy. I get that.
Yeah, or you could start throwing the ball really well. You could just give it up tomorrow. You know what I mean? He. So we used to do Bryant College training camp, and there's a little place there. A little shout out to Parentes, which is still there to this day. Little place out right as you turn into Bryant, and we would sneak out every now and then. And it'd be, a group of guys, and we'd go over there and fire it up for a little bit and then pay the ultimate price the next day of practice. But I'll never forget watching him, the pitcher. This is old school, right? Parentes. They got the pitcher, like that's the pitcher from like the 1950s. And, man, gone.
That's wild.
So it's a little known talent of his.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
like drank the whole pitcher. Or?
Gone. Yeah, the whole thing. By the way, we had a lot of guys that are good, like Larry Izzo. Man, guy he gave Brady a run for his money. A little special teamer. They're whacked out of their mind anyway. You'd expect that from them, not from a guy like Tommy.
Yeah.
And you still hang out with any of the players that you played with?
Yeah, we get to see each other. We have our reunion time. Look, I'm still here in Foxborough. Get to see some of the current guys every now and then. A lot of guys stay in this area, though. Well, I don't know about a lot, but a good number of my teammates. My wingman, Mr. Mankins, he's still here in the Northeast. Copen, our center, still in the Northeast. Was a beer guy for a little while. Got into the industry a little bit. Yeah. So we get to see each other.
And do you make it to games?
Try not to. No. No, you know what we do? We host a lot of people, through the foundation. We've got amazing board members like the McCarthys. They give us, their suite to entertain. But here's what I found out, right? So as a player, you think everybody's there, to cheer you on, and our stadium used to get pretty loud. I'm sure it gets loud today at times, but ultimately, what I found out is that if you're in that upper deck, if you're up there with like the people that are, definitely on track to solve problems in the world, you're not watching the game.
Yeah, it's networking. It's
I don't know what you're doing. I really don't know what you're doing, but like I can remember if you go in there, it's hard to tell that you're at an actual football game, right? It's kind of a crazy world.
That's weird. That's wild.
Yeah, it's wild. It's weird. Yeah. Good time. But, yeah, I don't get to too many games.
I know you told us a story earlier about some seagulls that I would love for you to tell us that story because it's so fucking funny.
Well, because you guys are surrounded by seagulls. I mean,
yeah.
Oh my! We have a thing on the roof that like makes a horrible screeching noise of a seagull predator to keep them away.
Yeah.
They're just like,
Yeah, whatever.
meh.
This is like a seagull
They
sanctuary.
don't care.
Like, seriously, you guys are this is like, if you did farm to table seagull, it'd be like nonstop right here, which you don't do that.
No,
don't do that.
no.
They taste like owl, but a little bit different. Not that I've ever eaten owl.
Yeah, I was like, I have follow-up questions.
Yeah.
Is that why you're so smart?
I'm sorry. You're not supposed to eat those. But so seagulls, yeah. So as I was getting ready to come in, seagulls attacked this guy. A lot of fish in this area, and there's a guy that had a big bag of fish, and he was loading in the back of his car. And I was sitting out in your parking lot for like an hour, just doing some calls, and I saw this guy set his bag down, and he went in, and I wasn't even thinking about it. I saw him set it down, and then 4 seconds after he left, the seagulls destroyed it. I mean, they pulled it out of his bag and ate the majority of it. It was awesome.
They have hands.
Crazy. Yeah, one of them was playing a guitar. It was cool. And so I'm watching this, and then so when I came in, I was telling you guys about the story, and then it reminded me, my offensive line coach one time, and again, I get blamed for everything. So he's like, all right, I want to know which one of you idiots, trained a seagull to all over my truck. And I'm thinking, like, when he's saying this, I'm like, where do you go with this?
Don't
like,
worry, you can say shit on our podcast. We're a beer audience.
Yeah,
Good.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I've
That's a
been
good point.
holding those
Yeah.
F-bombs and S-bombs.
Come on, guys.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. So he's talking about this, and I'm like, and he's literally adamant about the fact that his truck is completely covered. And I'm like, huh. And then I'm like, wow, I never thought, like, of all the practical jokes I pulled, I never thought about training a seagull to shite all over somebody's vehicle. Like, how do you do that? So I'm kind of like, I'm jealous. Like, why didn't I come up with that? I walk out to the parking lot to get something out of my truck midday, and it dawns on me that I park right behind where my offensive line coach parks, and he's got a truck, I got a truck. And I also have a driveway that is ridiculously long. Like every property I've ever owned, anywhere I've ever lived, you have to like literally like hire a trucking company to get your trash out. I mean, it's like forever, right? So being lazy and being an offensive lineman, I just would chuck during the season bags of garbage into the back of my truck, and then eventually I would drop it off at the stadium because they have giant dumpsters, like giant dumpsters.
The seagulls are eating from your back of your truck and shitting on your
and the
car.
reason they're going to his truck is because they're fighting in the back of my truck. So there's no peace and quiet to eat their trash meal. So they take the trash meal over to his truck,
Sure.
and then they lose it all there, and they come back for more. I was dying inside. Like, the fact that it was that, like, pinpoint. Like, anybody else's truck probably would have never heard about it. Right? If it was defensive coordinator, whoever, yeah. So if you want to have some fun, just carry around a large amount of trash in the back of your truck.
Put some trash in your trunk and park near your boss, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
So speaking of amazing things, I wanted to have you talk to us about the Light Foundation. What inspired you to found it, and what's the mission of it?
Well, so, I guess it goes back to my grandmother. There were times where she would say, Matthew, and this is typical when I'd walk to her house and I got in some trouble. She's like, I may be the only one that loves you, but at least you know you got one, right? And so she was an amazing woman, funny as heck. I called her Martha. She called me George. She was like, the ultimate grandma, right? And but she used to always tell me too. She had the same spot at church, right? My mom was a choir director at church, and Miss Arlene, was a staple in our community in terms of just like, the affection that people would show her and the stories you'd hear. But she would always say, to whom much is given, much required. I thought she wrote it. Apparently it's in a book that's much older than my grandmother. It's a little biblical in nature for those of you that know what I'm talking about. So I just remember when I got drafted, and especially the crazy year we had with, Coach Rabine passing away before the season started, 9/11, right. Joe Andruzzi, his family, all this monumental things like a life-changing, opportunity to go play a game and get paid for it. How ridiculous is that? And I kept hearing those words. So it's like, okay, I can't shut up, clearly, you can see that. And I love educating, come from educators, and I want to do something to give back and make an impact. because I got way more than I need. And that was kind of the start of it. So my wife and I kind of thought about it, and the outdoors comes natural to me. The idea was initially, let's just take this platform and be able to benefit others. And then it slowly turned into, after the first 2 years, okay, well, we've raised money and used the platform, and the winning helped a lot, right?
Yep.
And but I don't really know if it's making the impact that I want it to, right? And so then we thought, okay, well, if we truly want to make sure that happens, we have to own it from start to finish. So we developed our own programs, and where we are today is pretty unique. We've got the best team on earth. Amazing people that really care about spending time with young people and providing amazing opportunities. We definitely think outside the box in how we do things, but it's all about leadership. So we have the Light Foundation Leadership Academy. We get kids into the outdoors, but it's all in an effort to make sure that they know how to do simple things, like look you in the eye, have a conversation, show up on time, hold themselves accountable, make a commitment, work hard, all the things that we like to say about being real. Like, how many real friends do you have in your life? How many things really matter to you? How do you know what's real and what isn't? Responsible, ethical, accountable, and then at the end of the day, leading in some form or some fashion, right? And so we've been able to do that through things like, youth hunts that we have coming up here in the next few weeks. Okay, how's that have to do with leadership? Well, they got to fill out an application. They have to get it in on time. They have to volunteer for community service hours, helping out habitat restoration and things of that nature, so that when you do go in the outdoors, you have something you could actually hunt. And then you got to know how to respectfully harvest that animal and deal with it all. And then we have football camps. Well, what's that have to do with leadership? A little bit more tangible. Things make a little bit more sense. Then we have cultural leadership camps where we bring in kids from all over the country. But all said in what we do, and MattLight72.com if people are interested in it, but it's just about taking time out of your day to just go walk alongside these young people, and look, my we all have a favorite child, Anna, yeah, my kids know. They don't have to hear me say it, but we also have a favorite program, and we started out the Light Foundation from a programming perspective with our Camp Vaholicus, and it's basically, we bring in 4 young men every year. And there's 16 young men in this program. And this one is just for young men. Most of our camps aren't that way. But it's a 4-year commitment. And we get introduced into their lives. They get introduced into our lives when they're, leaving 8th grade year, going to their freshman year, and then we're with them all the way through high school. And you get to see this transition. You get to walk alongside them. We do career educational tours. We do community service projects. We do camp projects. They're in Ohio for a couple weeks in the summer where we really, get down and dirty and instill the core values of our program. And I mean, again, it's as easy as just, I get to introduce them to people that shaped my life, that held me accountable, that kicked me in a what when I needed it. And that's what kids need today. We don't allow them cell phones in. They get locked in a box, literally. And they just have to look people in the eye. They have to do their own laundry. They have to, get up. They have to clean up after every meal. They have to do the right thing, right? And we love it.
Can I send my husband? Are you accepting applications?
I'll tell you, you send a check with him.
And it'll be so. It sounds like you serve both New England and Ohio communities with your programming.
We do. We focus on those because those are the things that have done a lot. For my wife and I and look, my dad runs our camp projects. My mom and my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, they do all the cooking in camp.
That's awesome.
I mean, we're able to do things at a very discounted rate, right? Which is important because again, we're asking people to support us.
The money raised goes further.
It needs to. It needs to. You know what? And my entire team, they know that, look, you don't go out and buy a case of water if you can bottle it yourself. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that is very important to us. Our biggest fundraiser, which, I'm going to tell you right now, you guys have been massive supporters, Harpoon, staff, product, everything, forever. How far that goes. And people need to understand that, right? People that are in the nonprofit community understand it. You guys may look at it as, hey, we want to be there for you, right? And we want to help you out. And yeah, there's a little bit of brand awareness maybe, but you don't do that for, it's not a marketing tool, right? You're not going to get a return on that investment. But
that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. What that does for an organization like ours, though, is it's absolutely incredible. It makes a huge impact. And we've been able to do that, our shootout that we do in this September. This will be the 19th year for it. And, we will raise roughly 1.2 million.
Wow.
It'll cost us less than $150,000 to do that.
That's awesome.
And that's a testament to partners like you and so many others, and obviously our sponsors and all those. So, look, we're blessed to do what we do. And again, like, I've been given more than I deserve. There's no doubt.
Thanks again, Matt, for coming, talking to us today. We really appreciate having you here, and thanks for listening.
Yeah, I feel good about this.
I feel good about it too.
I feel great.